Hope you're doing as great as I'm doing today. Oh my God. So good. Physically, I'm putting it at a we're going to say a 9.32. Fuck it. That's a great score. Mentally, I 9, this has been the first time in a long time where I have successfully made a program, because I've always programmed for myself and I've always loved doing the trial and error, but this is the first program in a very long time to where I have actually managed to make it such a successful program to where my physical and mental are at their peak, the entire peak week that I scheduled for the end of the program. And it's such a great feeling. Today I hit my 5 doubles at 420, 90% on a squat, and the last set looked almost as fast as the first one. It was barely slowed down. It was great. And while it'll take a toll on my core a little bit, I just 10-minute break, brought it back, felt fine. Did my clean and jerks. Got 4 singles at 280. That's my 90% on clean and jerk, and it all felt great. Nothing felt too hard. I might have got a little tired towards the end, but shit. I think my form progressed as I did my reps on clean and jerk. I think the first 2 were the worst and the last 2 were the best. But it's on a peak week when I'm going this heavy, I don't like to think too much about form, because the more weight you put on it, thinking about form is just going to limit you. You just got to grip and rip it as hard as you can, and whatever's there is whatever you've got, and you got to accept that. But on that note, I thought it'd be awesome to talk about the idea that I think about a ton. It's one of the main things I think about in weightlifting. That I get, the way that I call it is core confidence. And I, in short, to make it more understandable, it's just the level of physical and mental confidence or reliability that you can put into your core alone. I don't mean your abs, I mean the entire trunk of your core. So your abs and your low back especially, but that it also includes your mid back a good bit. But just whatever's below your, wherever your abs are, all around your body in that area in one big circle, that's your trunk, your core, in my eyes. And so the way that I like to think about this is, a lot of people will be like, all right, if I'm squatting today, it's a leg day. Sure, that's completely fine. It's not wrong. But I think a progressive way to think about your weights to make the most growth efficiently in your strength is understanding that coincidentally at its core, metaphorically I guess, most lifts, not just the squat, the squat, the clean and jerk, the snatch, the bench to an extent, are all limited by the core first. And what I mean by that is, say just if you're squatting and you have a slight pull on your back or your abs or something like that, you are not going to be able to squat heavy at all. And again, even if you're not pulled or anything, if you don't have a lot of core strength, you're going to be doing either really shit form, or you're not going to be able to go to ass to grass. And I don't mean literally butt touching your ankles, just however deep that you're able to go without butt winking. I have long femurs, so I know that I'm never going to be able to truly hit that Asian squat. But there's a level that you can get to that you can comfortably squat at without it hurting by gaining more core confidence or core strength. So a way to imagine it is, if there are people that I know that can leg press 1,000 pounds, a lot of fucking weight, but they can only squat 225. Because squats are not limited by your legs. Your legs are the accessory of the squat that keep everything moving. I think the way that I see it is your core, when you get that big breath in and you pump your chest out and you squeeze your back and you tighten everything up right before you go down, you want to maintain that hold the whole way through. But more than that, on the way down, the squat is stabilized by your core first. Of course, your legs are always going to have a part in that. But mainly, the most success that you'll have is maintaining that tight core all the way around your trunk of your body, more than your legs. Your legs are just there to stabilize, and then the moment you get out of the hole, that little jump back up, whether you just go to 90 and go back up from 90, or you go below 90 and back up, I'm going to just talk about it from ass to grass because that's what I do. The moment you come out of your ass to grass position, that jump from ass to grass to 90 degrees in your squat, that part is mostly legs. But the moment you get to 90, at least, maybe even less, that's like all core drive, along with your legs pushing the weight and trying to stabilize it while your core maintains that position. Same thing on bench. Of course, it's a lot, like it's an arm exercise, it's upper body, your chest, everything. But if your core is not that strong and you're not able to get that good, not like a giant arc, I hate that shit, but just that little mini like push back in your low back where you can like hold it there and everything's nice and tight and stable, you're gonna do the thing that a lot of people do where you lift your butt off the bar. I think that's a big, people don't realize that that's just a big lack of core strength, and they go to use all the arm they can by taking the core off of the bench, you know? But if you have a tight core, like your trunk, your abs, your low back, everything, low and mid back, then your drive is going to be a lot more stable. And so while your core maintains the form of the lift, you're able to put the rest of your strength through your upper body on the bench to drive it the rest of the way that it has to get, you know? Like same thing, I think the moment you come off your chest, that little bump up, that's all arms. But then the moment you start driving, you get that leg drive and you tighten everything up, the core has to stabilize everything while your arms maintain a push, you know? Same thing on Olympic lifts. I've talked about this before, where you're never going to be limited by your strength first, in my opinion, on an Olympic lift. If you are perfect at Olympic lifting, and nobody is, unfortunately. It's just not feasible. People are very close to perfect, like Lasha and Lu Xiaojun, but other than that, again, even they are not perfect. They have missed lifts, and they've gotten injured or whatever. They've had stuff that's fucked them up. And so, in my eyes, you're first going to be limited by your form, because, Olympic is like all technique, essentially. Your strength is just that, similar to how your legs are the accessory to your core in a squat. Your overall strength is an accessory to the form and technique that you have in an Olympic lift. So you're going to fail first, or the first thing that would take you out is your form. If your form and technique is solid, then the next thing that takes you out is your core strength. And again, if you've been doing Olympic for a while, you're not really worried about your form most times. It's just, if you can land there and then you can't get it up, it's just a matter of your core not being able to stabilize it enough where you can squat it back up or hold it in the air, whatever. And then lastly, you are limited by your strength. In all these lifts, I think the last thing that you are limited by is by your general strength and the main muscle groups, like the legs and the arms, the chest, back, all that. Those are normally the things that are just, you just got to drive those muscle groups while maintaining the most solid core you can. Of course, technique also helps a fuck ton. If your technique is great, that's just a cherry on top. That'll make you stronger automatically. Like if you want a cheat code, you don't need a belt and knee sleeves. Just get better form, and I promise you the weight will go faster. Hell, I maxed out 225 not too long ago, and I'm already hitting consistent steps at 230. But I think it is so important to train your core to the point to where it is not a worry in your lifting. So many people are worried about rounding their back, or if on a front squat they're worried about their delts not being strong enough and their abs crunching on the way up. Anytime you catch an Olympic lift, if your core's not there, you're going to automatically bend, and you might walk it forward, or you might throw it too far behind your head, whatever. You can't stabilize the lift to the point it needs to be stabilized. The way that I train this, I know that everybody's situation is completely different. That is fine. You got to do what you got to do. But if you are a younger guy, I think any age group can do this. But if you're older, you got to take the weight down, and either take the weight down or find out what your max is, or like an estimated max. You can do like 90% and just try to figure it out. But you have to stop thinking about your max as your all-time lifetime PR with the belt on and whatever equipment on, and you need to think about your max as what you can do raw. And so if you start calculating your percentages based off of what you can do raw with the least amount of equipment possible, the only equipment I'll ever use on a PR is knee sleeves that are super flimsy. Like you can fold them 4 times, so they're not even that helpful when it comes to boosting me back up. I just like that bit of compression. Same thing on my wrist wraps. I just like the compression. My wrist wraps can't even tighten, you know? They're just there to hold my hand in place and reduce risk of hyperextension. But I never wear a belt ever because I'm not competing. And because if you're competing, that's different. You got to go for an all-time lifetime PR, then you need to have as much support as possible, and I get putting on the belt. But if you're not competing, then like you're going to grow strong at the same rate. You just have to understand that it's okay to have a PR that's not as strong as you could be doing by whatever, like even if it's 40-pound difference, it's fine. You're still going to grow at the same rate. It's just going to be without a belt on. And along that, you'll have a lot more mobility. You'll have a lot more confidence in your core. And I think you get stronger when you take the belt off. I think you learn to activate your core a lot easier. Like, I know the belt isn't just like an automatic weight increase, like kind of thing. Like you still have to hold everything together and have good enough form. But the belt kind of activates your core for you by keeping it so squished tight. And so if you take the belt off and try to like when I started, I took my PR down by 40 pounds, and I spent about 4 months building the weight back up to where it was, like 5 pounds at a time on my normal programming. And I just calculated everything from a beltless max and trained like that, and I naturally got to the point where I could acid grass like it's nothing. I didn't even have to train that much when it came to the mobility. It just came because I stopped wearing my belt and I allowed myself to work on my core in my squat instead of just thinking about my legs, you know, and hitting a big number. So I guess to conclude it, you know, you don't get like you don't got to think of your progress as just as a number. You know, it's so easy to want to put on more equipment, which again is fine. If you're injured or anything, or you've had a back problem for a long time and you just don't want to get injured again, that's completely fine. You know, train like that. And again, even if it makes you happier to train with a belt on, train with a belt on every time. I will always tell people to train the way that makes them happy and passionate about their lifting. But if you are somebody that is constantly worried about their core strength and they can't get the weight up or they can't stabilize and have good form, then just try it at least. You know, I used to be a guy that threw the belt on every day. I used to put on elbow sleeves, wrist wraps, knee sleeves, the belt. I used to put on the whole fucking shit, and I was just doing Olympic lifts with that kind of stuff on. I didn't even need all the equipment on. And, you know, I eventually just tried it out. I gave it a couple months, and the amount of confidence you get while lifting, and also I think again, you have to make sure you don't go too heavy. You know, on a power lift, I never go above what's estimated as my 90%. On an Olympic lift, I never go above 95 because it's more technique based, so I allow myself that extra 5%. But you can't go too heavy when you're hitting your heavy weeks. I do about 4 to 5 weeks of conditioning volume type stuff, working up to like 80-85% depending on a power lift or Olympic lift. And that last week, which is this week, I go between 90-95%, and that is the only time I'll allow myself to hit those weights because I know that I earned it after doing like 5 weeks of the same estimated max with all the different percent ranges. And I knew that max I could do beltless, so it was just a matter of completing the program. This works for me. It might not work for everybody, but variability is everything in weightlifting. If you are not willing to change your programming or your lifting style, technique, whatever, at all while you're training throughout the years, you're not going to make as much progress as you want. It's just a fact. Like, you have to change and adapt as your body grows, because as your body grows, your bone density grows, your form gets better, your strength gets better. Your body will need different movements and different technique, different form, different programming in order to work efficiently without fatiguing all the time. So take it with a grain of salt, have fun, don't overthink it too much, but just, give it a try. You just give it a week, give it 2 weeks, something like that. Just see if it feels fun and see how your mobility and technique grows. And other than that, I'm gonna go eat the shit out of McDonald's, because god damn it, after a day like today, I know I deserve this shit. Getting me my $5 2-for-1 quarter pounders. Love that. So have a great day otherwise. I'll be back tomorrow.